Welcome back to Questing Beast. Today I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a little while, and that's make a map making tutorial. Now, a couple of people have asked me about how we might draw swamps in a fantasy map, so we're going to look at that today. And I have basically two techniques, one that's a little bit simpler and one that's a bit more complex. So let's look at both of them, and hopefully one of them will work for you. So the simple way is just to do this. We draw some little horizontal lines, like so. You can make them a little bit watery. These just represent the water line, basically. Similar to what you might do in an ocean or in a lake. And then you can use the same thickness of pen, or maybe a thinner one. I'm going to go with one that's a bit thinner. And we just draw little bits of grass coming out of it like that. These basically being the reeds or the water emerging out of the waters of the swamp, or the marsh, or the fen, or whatever it is in your world. You can add a little more detail on these if you want. Maybe turn these into like little cattails. Put little cattails on the end of these. So that's an option that you can do. And then that reads pretty well as a swamp. I'd add a little bit more water here and there. Not all of it has to have reeds growing out of it, but that seems to read pretty well as a swamp. Now, if you want something more specific, I would do something like this. Let's see, I'll go back to my other pen. So, what is a swamp really? Swamp is a low-lying area of water on which a lot of rivers are flowing into, but it isn't really filling up and making a lake. It's just raising the water level to the point where it's just kind of flooded. So you're going to have little islands, you're going to have little rivulets, and the water level is going to go up and down, it's going to drain away, it's going to come back again. So what should it look like if that's what you're trying to go for? Now, in that situation, I would go for something like this. So I would have your water is flowing into this area via a river. Let's say that the river is flowing down from this direction. And let's say this area down here is going to be the swampy area. So what I would do is I would just sort of outline the area that I want to be swampy. Let's say it looks like this. That's going to be my swamp on my map. I want to keep it kind of wavy like that, as if it were full of water, almost like a lake. But what I'm going to do on the inside, instead of making it a lake, I'm just going to fill it with islands. But I want to draw the islands in such a way that the negative space in between the islands looks like lots of other rivers. Okay? So, take a little bit of practice. Just something like that. I'm going to fill in all of these spaces with little islands. So notice what I'm trying to do with the negative space here. I'm trying to make it into lots of little rivers crisscrossing and flowing into one another. And that's one of the reasons why I want the border of this area to look a little bit like a river. I want the edges of it to feel like a river kind of flowing around the outside of it. Fill in this area here. So keeping the edges of each of these little islands kind of wavy is a good idea if you want to keep that look of interweaving rivers. Because as I said before in a previous video, it's very rare, if not nearly impossible, for rivers to actually split into two smaller rivers. But if you have a situation like a marsh or a swamp where there's a lot of low, flat land, then the water can just sort of wander around the area instead of being forced into particular channels the way that rivers usually are. Right? So the water is going to form new rivers and split off from old ones and generally reform and change a lot as the water level changes and as the silt and the mud shift due to water flow. Okay, so something like that, and then maybe the river's flowing eventually back out the other side. So there we go. That's how I would basically do a swamp. I think it looks really effective. It looks just like a marshy, flat area. And you can even add some little bits of grass growing on the islands. I would do something like that to give it more of an impression of them actually being islands, right? They're actually land that you can walk on. So doing a little bit of grass here and there gives it that effect. And there we go. Those are my two main ways that I would draw swamps or marshes or any sort of wetland that you might need, depending on the level of detail that you desire. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. If it was, remember to subscribe to the channel. You can also join me on Patreon right over here if you want to support me making videos like this. And leave a comment below if there are other tutorials that you would like to see. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. See you guys later.